Great. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Montana Technology Innovation Partnership webinar to discuss the SBIR and STTR, Small Business Innovation Research, Small Business Technology Transfer Research programs when they reauthorize. We'll get into that. So really happy to have everybody here. And I am, as noted, I am recording this. We will make this recording available to you afterwards. Most of you should have also received a soft copy of a PDF of these slides as well. So thank you, everybody. And thank you. Also, hit record. This was my reminder to do this. Let me give you a little bit of a background. Why am I putting on this webinar? Our program is based here at Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. We are the Montana FAST program, and FAST stands for Federal and State Technology Partnership. It's really a cooperative agreement between the Small Business Administration and Montana State University, as well as the Montana Department of Commerce, to provide expert technical assistance to SBIR applicants in the state of Montana. And I would also be remiss if I did not also nod to our other funding partners aside from Montana State University, the Montana Department of Commerce, and SBA. I am based at Montana State University's TechLink Center. TechLink is the nation's national partnership intermediary, meaning they broker partnerships between people who are interested in licensing technology that is coming out of DoD or VA labs. So I certainly invite any of you who are interested in reviewing technologies that may be coming out of those labs to take a look at techlinkcenter.org. Again, my parent organization here at MSU, to explore any technologies. And feel free to connect with me afterwards if you have any other questions about that, and I can put you in touch with my colleagues here. But with that, I want to get in and introduce our special guest as well. Sonia Vohnout, who is one of the consultants that I rely on here to help support our clients in Montana. I do exclusively focus on companies who are based in Montana and or have a strong affiliation with Montana. But as I mentioned, we're a FAST partner. There is likely a FAST partner in your state or territory. So again, if you're having any difficulty finding someone in your area who provides support to SBIR and STTR applicants, feel free to reach out and I'll make sure to connect you as well. Today, what we're going to do is talk about what are these SBIR programs, maybe a little bit of an SBIR 101, but from Sonia and I's years of experience supporting clients like you, we're going to talk about some really very practical guidance for those of you who are getting started. We have an hour and a half to really do this, so we are going to be as thorough as we possibly can, but we're not going to hit everything, but it really will give you that great basis for you to get started exploring this or to learn some more things. The first hour, approximately 45 minutes to an hour, we'll do this SBIR 101, kind of get started. And then we want to leave that last half an hour or so to maybe do some examples. Sonia has prepared some great ideas in terms of how to navigate identifying different types of opportunities and then make it a little bit more open Q&A. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll probably turn this recording off after we get through that initial SBIR 101 and getting started that we'll use for recording. And then for Q&A and other deeper dives, I'm going to turn it off so that we have freedom to talk amongst ourselves here. And Sonia, let me introduce you again. Thank you. Maybe you can say a little bit about yourself, but then I'm going to take over and then I'm going to hand it over to Sonia a little bit later on in the day.
All right. Thank you. Real quickly. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I've been doing this for many, many years, a couple of decades or more now, focused on the SBIR SC program. We also do a lot of pretty much anything that would be diluted funding. That's where my focus is. My background is systems engineering and computer science. And the other thing that we help companies do is strategy, commercial strategy, partnerships, all kinds related to helping bring your innovation to the market as quickly as well. So thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Appreciate it. again, so let's talk a little bit. I actually am pulling in a lot of just the standard SBA slides. I thought, I'm going to leverage and give you the overview of SBIR programs. SBIR programs were started in the 1980s and 90s, the STTR programs. But it really was started out of a pilot of, hey, we want to bring more innovative new startup ideas to address the critical needs of our nation. And it has overwhelmingly been successful. Many, many companies, I don't think there's a day that goes by that any of us go through without touching or benefiting from SBIR funded technology, whether people use a Sonicare toothbrush or iRobot or a cell phone, a smartphone. You are leveraging technology that has been developed with the SBIR programs. It is non-dilutive, and this is we'll touch on right now. Most of you know the SBIR programs are still not officially reauthorized. We'll talk about that. But it is, in the most recent years, over 4,000 small businesses, not just awards, over 4,000 small businesses have been able to leverage this type of technology investment or this investment in capital from the federal government to help them either prove feasibility, prove the concept, and or get that early stage technology development done for their products or services so that they can have that broad impact, that societal impact, that economic impact that our nation needs. Over $4.5 billion has been invested in most recent years, and we expect when they reauthorize, it's going to be at that scale as well. And the government does not take equity. There's some rumors about are there down the road, might that happen? That is not how this is happening. This is non-dilutive funding. No equity stake is taken. And that's really important because I think for small nascent businesses, it's important for you to stay as founder driven as you can for as long as you possibly can. Delay taking VC funding until you really need it to scale, or if you need it to scale. I'm going to do a quick thing real quick because I want to emphasize, as I mentioned, this is a Montana State focused FAST program. Thank you. Welcome to everybody who are from other states, our neighboring states, our partners. But I want to highlight, because it actually is relevant, a couple of the companies that, just to give you a taste, this hits and affects local, regional economies significantly. On my website, I have just a handful of companies that have been able to leverage this funding, SBIR and STTR funding, to actually launch their businesses and to scale it to the point where they are starting to make traction. Economic, they are selling their products, licensing their products, et cetera. Inimune Corporation, based out of Missoula, doing very incredible work with respiratory cancer research with their immunotherapies. Again, they've been actually leveraged at National Institutes of Health contracting opportunities. We'll talk about grants and contracts. NIH typically does investigator initiated. They have sometimes some granting agencies or contract opportunities. We're not going to talk about NIH exclusively there, but this is a really great example of a company here in Montana that has leveraged SBIR funding. They've gone on to receive significant private equity funding as well. And again, part of that is because this SBIR funding was able to help them de-risk and prove the concept. Another company that I'm so happy to get to know and to have known, and their founder, Amber Norbeck, and team at OPO Connect, they are leveraging SBIR funding to develop and to expand some of the products that they are offering. And specifically, we can use it in maybe use the terms of the day, autonomy. They're leveraging robots to help with dosing and facilitating the very critical needs in opioid treatment centers of making sure that the patients have the right dosage of methadone or other types of medications to help them with their addiction, so that the caregivers in those centers can truly give care to the patients, not be spending all of their time on making sure that they have the right dosage, et cetera, of their applications. So they're leveraging SBIR funding as well to expand their really important aspect of helping to treat and serve and help these people with addictions overcome that terrible addictions with that robotic and autonomous system that they're developing. Resilient Computing, again, another company that is really focusing on protecting our nation's critical infrastructure, both by creating radiation hardened or fault tolerant types of computer systems that can go out into outer space, in space, in low Earth orbit, and higher. You're bombarded with this radiation. They have developed methods, in both software and hardware, to address many of the computer needs. So those computers will continue to work. They anticipate the faults that are going to be coming, and they're able to reprogram, redesign so that they can keep things functioning up in these really densely radiation hardened or severe environments. And more. I invite you to kind of take a look at these. Again, it's just a handful of the companies in Montana that have been able to leverage this to really prove out their concept and get started, and just a handful. But I wanted to make sure that I shared that. Let me make sure I'm getting back to this, just to give you a taste. These are real. This hits real people, not just the famous iRobot or Qualcomm or Sonicare that I mentioned before. Real rural companies, and it benefits our states tremendously. This, as I mentioned already, SBIR is non-dilutive funding. The government does not take an equity stake. You retain all of the intellectual property for this technology that is developed with SBIR funding. Again, this gives you a little bit of a note on the difference between SBIR and STTR. It is by mandate in the SBIR policy directive. And Sonia, I noticed this didn't change in the wording for the new reauthorization. We expected maybe a little bit of change of percentages. I don't think that changed here. I'll double check that with the final bill. But currently, there is a certain percentage of every agency who participates, their extramural. So that extramural research and development budget that they have, they are required to funnel some of that towards small businesses through the Small Business Innovation Research programs. They're also, if they are a large enough agency, we'll talk about that a little bit later, they also have to set aside some of that to the STTR program. And you'll hear a little bit of that difference. I will talk more generally just SBIR. They are sister programs. Most of all of the rules apply the same across the board. But STTR is a sister program to SBIR, and it just requires that a research institution is a participant in this project as a sub-awardee. And it was really designed in the 90s to make sure that we are leveraging previous investments of federal dollars at the academic or federal lab level and try to translate some of those technologies out, or to really bridge those partnerships between small businesses and academia or federal labs to really, again, enhance the expertise and ideas that are bringing new technologies to solve and address critical problems for our nation. I'm going to look at this again about the SBIR programs. There are 11 different agencies that participate, and we'll dig into those here just right now. But it is important, and we'll talk to you a little bit about which may be right, SBIR or STTR. Should you involve a research institution, you can have a research institute involved in an SBIR as well. What are the types of partnerings that you may want to look at? But these really are designed to, again, promote technology excellence in our nation by investing in small businesses to de-risk early stage technology. And I think I've touched on this already. Great ideas come from anywhere and anyone. It is really, while there are some large states, California, Massachusetts, that have a high number, they have high populations, they also have a high number of SBIRs and STTR awards. It's incredible when you look at the smaller states like Montana, who are fighting above their weight class. Really, when you look at a per capita basis, Montana ranks 13th in the nation in terms of on a per capita basis, the number of awards and money that's come into the state. So it's an important factor for some of our rural communities to have this type of technology development going on here. Here are the phases for SBIR. How does it work? SBIR funding.
And
Yes.
I put a note in the chat. I was trying not to interrupt
you.
you. Your slides are not showing. So if you were intending to do so.
Oh, thank you. They are not showing on here. Let me see what's going on.
I can see them.
I can see them.
I can see them.
You can, so I
And-
apologize then. Sorry.
Let me
Yeah, and
here.
yeah,
I'll adjust
Elizabeth.
my view on my my Zoom because I don't see them. So thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
and,
have screen, so I want to make sure that it is. I'm going to do a quick stop share and share again, just in case.
Mhm.
In case.
Yeah, I think we all see them, but Elizabeth, if you put a comment, we didn't get your comment either.
I just sent it directly to Anne. So okay.
Oh, okay.
But I will say definitely send it to both of us, or send it to everyone, because I will probably not be paying attention.
Yeah, I see them now. So
Okay, perfect. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Mhm.
for that. Thanks. I'm glad you're here. So we talked about, let's come back. How are the SBIR? What are these SBIR programs? How do they work? What they're going to do is these agencies, and we'll talk about the agencies in a second too. You're going to have a couple of opportunities to de-risk your technologies. First phase typically is phase one, entering in with a phase one proposal to an agency. And that is really focused on de-risking your technology. It can be anywhere from 3 to 6, sometimes up to a year or longer with some agencies, depending. But typically, it's about that 6 months range of a well-designed research strategy to de-risk the technology development. You're going to have some aims, some technical objectives, and the use of that phase one funding is just to confirm if this is feasible, this will work. One of the things that I say is, like, think about the most important things about your technology development, that if you can't prove out, it's not worth spending another dollar, much less another $1 million on the product development. That's the goal of your phase one, de-risk your technology development, so that you can also go on to that phase two, which is really that prototyping, that additional funding to start developing, to leverage what you know, what you learned from your phase one, and then try to get that to, progress that to that minimum viable product. Make sure that it can address and have the impact that you want it to do. So that's really about 2 years, approximately, up to $1 million for phase two funding to help you with that product development. Many agencies have supplemental phase two funding. And in fact, in the new reauthorization, there is going to be an option for agencies to leverage, which has already been done with Air Force and some of the others, strategic breakthrough. Those are always going to be supplemental phase two. That means they're leveraging SBIR dollars, the dollars that are allocated to the SBIR programs in their budgets. They can leverage some of that to throw at the big bets. Those companies who have really proven in phase two that this is an incredible fit, this is an important technology for that particular agency, for the broader market. And typically, we're probably going to see that in the contracting agencies like the Department of Defense and their components, where they are going to, they may have some supplemental strategic breakthrough funding that will require matching from outside investors, a one-to-one match for that. So those are some options there, but every agency also has some type of support for companies that are looking to commercialize. There's phase zero support. That's actually partly what our FAST programs are all about, to help coach people through the early stages of applying and to get you, in the system and understanding how to compete effectively for this. There's other commercialization assistance. There are ICOR at NIH, ICOR with NSF, the founders of and the creators of the ICOR programs, and others. So there's many different programs that you're going to be able to take advantage once you're in the door. Phase three is that third component. We talk about phase three SBIR. It's really not leveraging SBIR dollars. It's really just the goal of SBIR, the SBIR programs and the STTR programs that you've actually gone on to eventually commercialize, translate that technology that was funded through phase one and or phase two funding. It can be directing, additional R&D dollars that are non-SBIR dollars from an agency that maybe you need some additional funding for that. It can hopefully also be just directly sales, acquisition, program acquisition, or other sales that you receive or investments. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about phase three. And we can talk more about phase three. One thing that I'll put in here, one of the advantages with phase three as well, I'm going to go back here. Some people have heard of this sole source contracting, phase three sole source contracting. This is an element that is in the reauthorization. We found, let me first tell you what phase three sole source is. Phase three sole source contracts are based on the fact that you have SBIR data rights that you are competing. You have already competed. You've gone through a competition with that agency or an agency to get SBIR phase one or phase two funding. That's a competitive process. You also have a type of non-disclosure with anything that is developed with SBIR funds called SBIR data rights. And we could do a whole program on SBIR data rights, but know that it's really a form of non-disclosure. So that competition that you've already competed plus the non-disclosure helps you then go to the point of, hey, agency, program, you do not have to compete. You can just directly contract with me because I have the technology that you are looking for. So that's what allows people to get sole source contracts, sole source phase three contracts. And I hope that was very high level, but I hope that gives you that explanation of when you hear sole source contracts, it is a great opportunity. It is a great benefit, but it's not automatic. It is to the extent practicable. Just because you do SBIR doesn't mean that you have a guaranteed contract at the end. You still have to build your relationships. And one of the things in the SBIR reauthorization is that the federal government is going to work at making sure that the acquisition people are much more familiar and understand what phase three means and what the requirements are, because we have heard in the past, oh, hey, we should be able to get a phase three sole source contract, but they're on the acquisition side, they're saying that we can't. That's because the acquisition side didn't understand it. But we hope to see more changes like that, but that is something that you can advocate to. Again, if you're funded with SBIR, and you know of opportunities where your technology is the fit, make sure you build those relationships and try to leverage some of that technology. I don't know, Sonia, if you have any other thing to say that, again, a whole other webinar, we should maybe plan.
No, it's pretty good. I think one of the things that, like you just mentioned, it's so critical to build those relationships as well as educated the program managers and program directors at the different agencies, because if they don't understand, they put out a solicitation and they shouldn't be competing it because the federal government already paid for that technology to be developed. And then it's to the small business, number one, to find that someone posted a solicitation they can respond to. And then number two, convince them that they shouldn't have done it, and how do you not compete anymore? So there's all that still is an issue. So it's so important, to get the help. We're here to help you to work through those. But anyways, that would be my only.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. Thanks. Yeah, again, just want to kind of we're touching on a lot of the levels of the behind the scenes with the SBIR as well. Participating federal agencies. Now we're going to have another slide with the logo slides of them, but there are market driven and mission driven. I think they all have missions, but really what's this slide is discussing is agencies that are open, that are developed, that issue SBIR grants, meaning they have research areas, they have areas that is the mission of that agency to improve human health, National Institutes of Health, improve cancer outcomes, National Cancer Institute, develop new agricultural productivity, the USDA for example. But they don't have really, they're never going to buy, probably. They're not going to be the buyers of your technology, but they are very interested in supporting small businesses to do that. So they're very interested in investigator-initiated proposals that still fall under their research areas, their research objectives. Those are market-driven. Your sales, your eventual sales are probably going to be more in the civilian market space. They typically issue grants. Mission-driven, as the slide describes, are agencies where they are primarily going to be the #1 acquisition target for your technology. The Department of War, NASA, for example. However, they also are very encouraging for companies who are proposing technology to the Department of War or NASA or others, that they are also dual use. You may have heard that phrase, that they also have a civilian market application for this as well, because they actually want you to stay in business, but they don't want you to be exclusively reliant on them as your customer if that would make you not be successful or not be able to stay in business. So definitely consider diversity in your customer staff. But I am going to say, be narrow-minded if you are a nascent company trying to bring something to market, try to dial in as best you can into the best market fit for what your technology, what you're developing. You do your customer discovery. You learn and understand where your technology and how you should be developing your technology to address the problems that you want to do, and make sure that you're not boiling the ocean with trying to address too many customer segments at once. Try to make sure that you're getting yourself off and you get that initial traction, and then start expanding your customer bases with your technology. But this does align. Market-driven agencies here are typically granting agencies. Mission-driven are typically contracts. And there is a difference between those vehicles for the awards, but it really is the method that they award SBIR or STTR funding. 11 participating agencies. Here's a logo slide. Here I've separated them into those organizations or those agencies that also have the SBIR or the STTR programs. So I mentioned SBIR, STTR. Not all of the agencies have STTR programs. Again, you can subcontract, you can involve a research institute in an SBIR or STTR. You just are required to with STTR. And there could be some good reasons for that. But it is only those agencies with larger extramural R&D budgets that have the STTR program. Other agencies are not required to have that as well. And I think they are still all funded here. Let me, I'm going to go, I'm looking, we're about half hour. I want to make sure we take about another 15 minutes just to kind of wrap up some of this. And I introduce Sonia in terms of some of the other getting started, identifying some of these opportunities. But let's look at who's eligible. Let's look at what they consider innovative. And let's look at how you will be evaluated. Those are really important for you to be keeping in mind when you're exploring these. Because again, ultimately what you're doing, this is a sales process on your part too. You're going to be submitting a proposal and you want to be addressing what the agency's purpose and needs are, and really explaining to them, articulating how your technology will not only make you a strong company, but ultimately help them advance their missions in their research areas. So small business, who can apply? You do have to be a for-profit small business. You can be organized in many different ways. You can have a benefit corporation. You can be a co-op. You can be a LLC, a S or C corporation, but you do have to be organized as a for-profit, and you have to be a small business, meaning under 500 employees. And that includes all affiliates. So if you have a parent company or other spin out companies that are still affiliated with your company. In total, you have to have under 500 employees. Typically, though, with the companies that we're working with, typically it is that individual company has less than 500 employees. I'm not seeing a lot of that here in Montana. Most of them have less than 10 when they're getting started, or a couple. And while this isn't really an eligibility requirement, the purpose of this funding is not capital equipment or real estate, land, or even per se hiring operational people. It is really to conduct and pay for the cost of conducting the research and development to advance your technology. So keep that in mind in terms of what this SBIR funding can be used for. Again, we can talk more about that when we're getting into individual one-on-one consulting for you all. Innovation, and this is how it's written in the policy directive. But some people will say, like, what is new? And Sonia, we'll talk a little bit this in terms of DoD here too. Innovation typically is something new, so it has not been developed. You can't find this out in the marketplace already. It has to have marketable potential. It has to include something that's development of new technology. Refinement is I'll say that carefully, depends on the agency, or really the development of new applications for existing technologies. So we could say lasers or sensors. That development is pretty new, but maybe there's a new application that will help with improved crop outcomes or something like that. Those are new applications for existing technology, certainly may fall under an SBIR worthy type of funding or technology. Here's one of the exceptions that we're going to see. And I think we're going to see even, I don't know if we'll see even more of this. The Department of Defense, about 5 or so years ago, started what they call, and with the Air Force initially, open topics, commercial solutions offerings, where they are reaching out to the commercial space, companies that have not traditionally done business with the government, but they may have solutions in sensors, et cetera. But they're not working with the Department of Defense. They are very interested in those technologies that have proven an application in the civilian market space and how they may address important needs for the Department of Defense. That's this interesting case of something that may have already been developed. The proof of concept then, the SBIR work then becomes, how do we make sure, and I'll say it in this terms, how do we make sure it's ruggedized? It meets the needs of the Department of Defense. Now that ruggedization could have been, can it be used in a contested environment? Does it have the elevated cybersecurity or other types of aspects? But it could be that your technology already is commercially available, but it's not been used by the Department of Defense. Do you have any other thoughts on how I said that, Sonia, or that little exception to what is innovative here?
That's such a hard question. I
Yes.
mean, it just sometimes innovative means a combination of existing technologies put
Mhm.
together. Sometimes it's a brand new process or approach. AI falls into a very deep philosophical discussion because AI in itself might not be the innovation. It's how you use it or the approach or how you create the interpretation of the data. And so when someone says, I'm doing a brand new AI, I'm using AI, and we review that, well, who cares, right? Why? How? What's innovative about your AI approach? And so, that and your scientific approach of how you use that and demonstrate it. So you go back to science. That's
Yeah.
what I would.
Yeah. We talk a little bit this later on when we talk about some of the early things that you can do when you're evaluating topics or things like that, or whether your technology is right for this. But that's sort of a general high level. Do you have something new? If the current state of the art, you're bringing something new to it, we can talk. That makes sense. Research. This is really, how are you going to be evaluated? How are they going to be looking at this? And in general, every agency will, and every solicitation will publish their evaluation criteria. You should be reading that every single time you're looking at an opportunity. But they're going to fall into about 3 buckets, approximately, for SBIR. It's going to be the intellectual merit, the scientific merit of what you are proposing. This is technology research, innovative research funding. So they are going to be looking at the strength of your scientific approach. And I forgot that I put on a little precursor one too. When proposals are going to go through like an administrative review. So that's something that we can kind of help with as well. It's just like making sure, are you compliant? Have you read the instructions? Have you given us everything that we say that you want to do? The agencies are very aware that they don't want to make nuclear flaming hoops and hurdles for the small businesses to apply. They are doing their best to try to keep those to a minimum, but these are competitive. There's a process. So you are going to have some hoops that you're going to have to jump through to make sure that you're submitting a proposal package that's compliant. But ultimately, assuming a compliant and full complete package is submitted, they're going to be looking at your scientific approach. They're going to be looking at this impact. Does this technology have, the ability to move the needle, change the way we're doing things, improve scientific outcomes, address commercial impact, and really meet the mission needs of that agency, especially when you're considering an agency that is a likely customer of yours as well. So it's really looking at moving the needle, impact, and then they want to make sure that you and your team are competent, that you can effectively deliver on that early stage. And that doesn't mean that you have to have everybody on your team when at phase 1, but you should be talking about it and understanding when we bring this technology to market, here are the people we're going to add, here are the advisors that we have. We know how to do this. We're a good bet for you to invest in as a company. So the strength of your principal investigator, the strength of the people around you that have that sense of commercialization. They can, take this early stage technology and get it to market, and et cetera. So they're really looking at those 3 main buckets when they're evaluating your proposals. This I will go quickly over. This is in your slides that you have, and not because it isn't important, but just like it's a detail, kind of a little bit in the weeds. I've talked about the differences between SBIR, STTR. One of the key differences is the amount of the award that you can subcontract. You can only subcontract 33% of your award on an SBIR phase 1, but you can subcontract up to 60% per se, possibly on an STTR, with at least 30 of that going to a qualified research institution, federally funded research and design or research R&D lab, or a university, for example, Montana State University, University of Montana. So that's kind of the key difference there. And also the agencies that are involved as well. Principal investigator, for the most part, I advise everybody, make sure that you are owning the technology, that you have the technical prowess in your team as a small business, but principal investigator with an STTR, except for with NSF, can also be at the university and not at the small business if needed. But that's my personal preference, is that small businesses really have the PI on their team. So how do the changes in the SBIR reauthorization? And we'll probably do another thing after reauthorization is really final. Sonia, I had hoped that maybe it would be by the time this webinar had happened.
Oh my goodness, I've been refreshing to see what happens. And I see other congressmen posting, "Oh, my bill was approved," and it's like, why nobody's posting about ours?
We'll see. Yeah. So as we see, I was on the House floor, watching the House floor as well earlier before this, and it was a different bill. So any day now, guys. I've been saying that for weeks. We've been saying that for weeks. SBIR programs are incredibly desirable. The agencies want them. There's been a long delay. Again, we'll go into that in another webinar. Why? But let's talk right now. What are you going to see with the SBIR reauthorization? Because we're not going to see any crazy changes from the draft that's currently out there. And there are three, and I may be missing a couple of things, but three of the key changes is that the agencies are going to have the discretion to, it's not going to be a hard mandate, but there's going to be a strong encouraging of the agencies waiving caps on the number of proposals that companies can submit. This is really not an issue for most of the companies I'm working with because they're usually nascent, early stage companies that are just getting started and learning how to develop these proposals and really articulate that in a strong way so they can continue transfer that SBIR proposal development into future bid and proposal development that they'll need for their company. But some companies have been in this world for a long time, and they're really good at submitting proposals, and they win a lot. And those are multiple award winners. And the gist is that wasn't, we wanted to really invest in a lot of early stage technologies, but ultimately it is, what does the agency need? And some of these companies have really gotten good at developing proposals. So there's going to be some limits that may tame down the multiple award winners, but an agency will still have discretion if a proposal is coming through, happens to be from a multiple award winner, but it really is addressing what they want to fund. I'll say that. I'm waving my hands a lot here. The other thing that people are going to see is much stricter due diligence on the part of the agencies, which means the small businesses has to be prepared for this, to be scrutinizing your any relationships with foreign influence and ensuring that your cybersecurity is really as strong for the development that you are supposed to be doing. And there are scales, there are different levels of cybersecurity that's going to be required. So this deemed export, any of the rules involving foreign influence, you need to be considering not just your small business, but any of your partners. If you're subcontracting to a university, any of the graduate students or faculty that are involved on there, really paying attention. And I'm not saying you do not have people that are not U.S. citizens, but they can be permanent U.S. citizens. They can be here lawfully. There's other aspects that are required, but you need to make sure that you're aware of that for any of your subcontractors, and also be looking at that in terms of future sales, any licensing agreements, et cetera. There's going to be stricter due diligence on that. And we're going to try to make sure that we're either ourselves, our program, and our partner programs will get information to our clients as much as possible to help you navigate that process. And I already mentioned those strategic breakthrough phase 2s. Those are going to be incredible. They've already been piloted by some of the agencies. Not every agency, not every component within an agency. For example, DARPA will not probably be doing that. They don't have enough funding for their SBIR programs to be allocating these huge strategic breakthroughs. However, DARPA is a great agency to work with because they're very good at introducing applicants or awardees to other defense contract or defense programs. But this is just to the extent practical for the purposes of a specific agency. They will, some of them have that flexibility to invest in the small businesses that formed really well under the SBIR programs, and they want to see more. They have that option to do up to $30 million. That has to be matched 1-for-1. So you'd have to also get 30 million matched from an investor or otherwise. But that's an example of what the strategic breakthroughs are going to be doing. So I think that's going to be pretty game changing for some of the companies that are involved in that. And we'll kind of get into this area, getting to know the agencies. We can't stress enough. We talked about the agencies. Now we're going to kind of try to transition over here. What do we do? Okay, I have this kind of technology. And one example, maybe I have a biological countermeasure, something that can help in contested environments or just even in disaster areas. What would you do? I have a center, I have sensors, I have optics, I have a system that will help protect drones navigate in swarms autonomously in certain areas. All of these types of things. What do you do? One of the first ways you can do is start, and Sonia will talk a little bit more about this. Want you to get to know what's been funded. And one first place to start is SBIR.gov. They have all of the award data. They're going to have access to tutorials. They're going to have access to actually other partner people, organizations like the Montana Technology Innovation Partnership in the community. The next thing is that you want to do from the agencies that you think may align with your technology, addresses their missions, go to that agency's website. And that's as simple as Googling SBIR, agency name, and you'll find their set website. And they're going to talk to you a little bit more about the types of things they're interested in funding, how to participate in their programs, etc. So I want you to make sure that you're kind of checking those areas. And then also take a look at the agency's overall strategic plans. Most of those are published, maybe changing, but that also gives you a good sense of what are the key critical technology areas, the critical missions that that agency has said that they want to accomplish in a certain area. So those are a few ways that you can really start prepping yourself to understanding how you're going to talk to that agency and convince them that they should be funding your technology development. And we've talked about this as well. I think Sonia will talk a little bit about this a little bit as we're talking about finding things. Agency representatives in their small business programs and their small business innovation research programs are very happy to talk with you. If you're talking to a mission-driven agency, an agency that issues contracts, when they have an open solicitation, you're going to be restricted. You're not going to be able to talk to those technical points of contact. So now is a great time to try to talk to people who are maybe involved in areas or programs at contracting agencies, NASA, JPL, or Langley, or others. If you know that your technology may address some of the things that they're trying to address, now is a great time to try to reach out and form those conversations. USDA or NIH, National Science Foundation, they have National Science Foundation is a process, but these are investigator initiated, and they're very open to talking with you before you even submit an application about the technology development that you're working on. So we invite you to make sure that you're making those connections with those people. And again, we can help you to try to identify some of those, some of the points of contact within the agencies. And I want to say registration's on my website. I have this document. If you are not already registered in SAM and you are planning to submit a proposal, now is the time to get started for sure on that. But every agency that participates in SBIR requires that you have a small business with a tax identification number that's obtained at the IRS, that you're registered in SAM, System for Award Management, so sam.gov, and that you have a quick, easy registration on the SBIR.gov website to register your company as a small business entity. So those are every agency or every applicant needs to have those. You'll probably have like a login.gov or other type of, single sign-on type of approach that you may want to get as well with those. But then every agency has both a proposal system, a portal to submit proposals, and a grants or contract administration type of proposal portal. And those are going to vary by agency. So really getting started, I think I want to make sure that everybody has their SAM registration and their SBIR.gov registration completed as well. So finding SBIR. And so we can talk. I can actually pass. I've been talking a lot. We're going to talk about how do you find some of these. I'm going to keep the recording going for a while until we get through some of this. I want to make sure that we have lots of Q&A here. But first, and Sonia, this is one of the core things that we do when we're coaching new clients in terms of evaluating. So they're like, hey, we haven't even gotten to what evaluating, finding the opportunities. Why are you saying this? Because I want you to keep this in mind. as you're evaluating opportunities, whether they are solicitations, broad agency announcements, notice of funding opportunities, they will call them all different types of things. But an SBIR opportunity, you really want to be making sure that you're aligning yourself. Make sure that you know what you want your company. Don't go after everything. And one of the first things that you do is a term is called a blue team review. It doesn't matter. We've done it for years without even calling it anything. But just to put some context to it, a blue team review is this the right type of opportunity for us to pursue? It's really kind of a pursuit analysis. Does the topic, does the solicitation, does this agency align with what we want to be as a company? And will they be a good investing partner for us while we do this technology development? And I won't read all of these lines here. You can look at that as yourself. So that's really just making sure that you're aligning yourself with what you're going to be pursuing. And here are some key questions that you want to be thinking about with kind of areas that you want to be assessing when you are considering whether an opportunity is the right thing for you and your company. Does your technology align with it? Do you have the right expertise to respond to that? And if you don't, can you get it pretty quickly? Can you partner with a university to complete your team, etc.? So those are great things for you to assess. Because assessing your team, as we said, they're going to be looking at your team and are you competent to carry that out? Do you know the current state of the art? Do you know the other players and that are also developing this technology? You should be aware of that. There's going to be more and more emphasis on showing that they're going to be investing in they want to invest in new technology. They want to invest in new companies, but they also want to be showing that they're investing in new companies that have a good bet of succeeding. So you should know who your competitors are, potential competitors, alternative solutions. You should also be looking at, other people who may be competing specifically for that SBIR opportunity as well. Try to do your due diligence there. And you also want to be making sure that it's aligning with your long-term strategies. And do you have the time and bandwidth to commit to putting together a strong proposal? I have here a link here, our friend and colleague, I think Sonia knows him as well, Jeff Orzum. It's not really, he doesn't talk about blue team review, but in this video, in those slides, I encourage you all to take a look at it. So I think it's less than 15 minutes, but he talks about what he did with one of his founding companies that he founded to win DARPA funding. And it actually aligns pretty well with kind of some of this process. So I have a link there. Why these matter for you, why you should only go after the things that are really a good fit for you, is it really makes sure that you avoid, costly mistakes. You don't want to be distracted because you can do a project. You don't want to be distracted from what you really should be doing for your company. So I will stop with that and pass it over to Sonia. Sonia, thank you so much for joining. I've talked a lot. I tried to talk through very fast, and that's why
we'll do it again. If just let me know. I know some folks have to leave at in about 5 minutes, so you can move the slides for me, Anne. So I haven't found new news, so we're still where we were yesterday, as far as I know, with the SBIR. I'm going to talk as fast as I can. If we don't finish, we could always schedule something to go back in, or you'll have the slides and we could help you.
Maybe I'll ask too, guys. If you have a concept of an agency that you may be interested in, put it in the chat, and we may just take a couple.
Focus on that too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. So there's Anne already talked about the importance of registering. You need to be registered on SAM and grants.gov and probably among all these ones. But if you want, you could also use them to find past and current opportunities. These are not the best ways to find these opportunities, but so if you familiarize, then you want to match your capability to a particular agency or what they're offering, make sure that you go into each agency's website. That's probably the best way to decide if there's a good match. And besides, you need to understand who you're applying for and what their mission, and because they become essentially they could become your customer. So if you don't understand their needs and their opportunities and you don't match your innovation and your solution to what they're looking for, again, there's not going to be a good fit. So that's part of the technology fit and needs assessment. So make sure that you look at their websites. You will be, after you do sam.gov, if you want to go after SBIRs, you're going to have to register in sbir.gov. And you could always search for past and current opportunities there as well. Sometimes they're a little bit behind on posting the awardees, but nonetheless, it's a good place for you to get familiarized, to learn what has been funded, to understand who are potential competitors out there. So, and you need to get familiarized. So please, this right now, while still we wait, these are the kind of activities that you should be doing, is getting familiarized and learning as much as you can. It's part of doing your homeworks and due diligence. And just put in there ways that you can search through the SBIR.gov. And again, it's not my favorite place to find opportunities, but it's certainly one that you need to learn how to use. Next slide. Again, more in depth of what that looks like. You could look for topics, you could look by agency, you could look by phase ones, phase twos, by company, by year, and it's really useful in that sense. Next
And
slide.
unfortunately, no topics now, but yeah, yep, yeah, and we can,
Sam.gov is my least favorite,
Yes.
but you could still use it to look for, and I don't like their search mechanism, but that's one. It's free and you can find opportunities through it there. It's just not the easiest way to use. I use govtribe.com, and I think I pay like under $50 a month, and it's much more useful than sam.gov. Anyways, grants.gov for granting. And so you could look at, similar to SBIR.gov, it lets you do your search there. And you could put in keywords and look for opportunity numbers, look by agency, by year, what's open, what's closed. Again, get familiarized with it. Google before AI was my most favorite. I became an expert Googling, but the reason I would find things is by the order of the keywords I would use, whether I put quotes, not quotes, but Google was amazing. So here we put an example. It's for a webinar we did a little bit ago, but it's still kind of the same. If you put, you're looking for an ASIC that's red, hard, low power, SBIR, and what the Navy has funded, guess what? You're going to find quite a bit of information. So why not? Now, if you go to the next slide, you could start just narrowing. This one's very high level. It's looking NASA SBIR. It's going to put in your NASA website first, but then it's going to start drilling down into more things. But typically, that's kind of what I do. I will put Red Heart, DoD, SBIR, ASICs, and it will give me so much good information. And I will start finding, it's amazing what also other people put on their blogs and news articles that they might publish, that once they get that contract or that grant, they can make it public that they have been given an award. And they will probably announce their award far before grants.gov or SBIR.gov will have it. And you will start finding out who has funded what. And we won't have time to go into depth in this, but if you want some tricks, reach out to any of us and we'll show you some fun ways to do that. Here, another thing is Anne talked about technology fit and whether what you're doing is aligned with what agencies are funding. So I made just a very high level definition of what these agencies are looking for. So DoD or DOW is looking at defense capability, enhancing mission readiness, military readiness. It's all about centered about the warfighting and their success in saving their lives to help save us, right? NIH is looking at medical innovations and health outcomes. NSF also has an intermingling with almost anything, right? With the high level topics, but they're going into deep technology with an aim to commercialize. So I like NSF because it makes a link for what is called dual use, so that, which is in the spirit of the SBIR program, is the commercialization and helping the companies scale and grow. And I believe that that happens through dual use. So it's not that you're only going to be serving the military, but guess what? If I'm doing a technology for a ground vehicle, it might apply for all those other automobiles. And that's where your biggest market is going to be. So that's kind of what a definition of dual use is. And commercial offerings, which is going to happen quite a bit with the new reauthorization. Department of Energy is energy systems, climate technology. They're looking at EVs, nuclear and other stuff. NASA is about space exploration and aerospace systems, but they're also looking at some stuff for on Earth. And so if you could maybe stuff that goes on space goes also for underwater on the oceans, right? So keep that in mind. Rough environments. Next slide. So here's some good key tools for discovery where you can find what previous awards are or what their opportunities are now. We talked about SBIR.gov, NIH Reporter. You can find out everything the NIH has funded, but it's going to give you tons of stuff. So then you need to learn how to drill down. NSF Award, all their technology trends, DOW or DOD, go to their website. It will give you their topic history. The portfolio analysis and the NASA Tech Port, similarly, energy and space technology priorities and roadmaps. Next.
And I want to stress, because we're going through this very fast, guys, we can actually help you in terms of like looking through other agency-specific award databases to actually narrow down, for example, in NIH Reporter, the reporter, I can help you identify, oh, which ones of these were SBIR, and we can make sure that we narrow those down if you want to. But again, this is really some of that earlier research that may be very helpful for you to understand both contacts within the agency, as well as what types of things have they funded. Let me be lying. Sorry.
Okie dokie. With all the talk about AI, I decided, well, heck, why not give you a safe way to use AI to find past and present opportunities or trends. So once you understand what your technology is and some good fits. One of the things I like to do is use AI maybe to identify good keywords. Then you have your technology fit, you have your keywords, then you could start using the AI to help you find past awards. Much easier than to go into the SBIR.gov or grants.gov. It's going to give you all kinds of stuff. Now, keep in mind, whichever AI you use, it becomes an art how you prompt and the order you prompt and what questions you ask. So this might be a guidance to do this. So you can start clustering those results, start finding patterns, so where are we going? so that you can start matching current solicitations and rank. And keep in mind that blue team review that Anne talked about, because once you look at what it gives you, assuming it had not hallucinated, you can then start doing your go, no go decisions, right? And you rank, you prioritize, and see where there's the best fit. Next slide.
Yep.
And here I started thinking, well, maybe these could be some good asks that you could use. So for the technology, the history, the trends, finding matches, and how to prioritize. And you'll get these slides.
Yep.
Let's get to the next slide. Here's what the NIH reporter looks like. So please go if you're in the health or biomedical or medical devices. Do your homework, find out which agencies have been funding, institutes, and
Yeah, I'm
see.
happy, guys, we can do one-on-ones. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can reach out to those people that have funded that and find out, is there something right now? Maybe there's not an SBIR, but there could be another ROI, and you can partner with universities or with other companies to go after these bigger opportunities for research. Next slide. In the DOW, if you go to their Defense SBIR website, it will give you the list of areas that they fund. And you could then dig deeper to see where do you fit, and then find out not only if there's fit, but also understand what is funding and what they're looking for, so that it helps you make these go, no go decisions. And also, there might not be a specific topic right now created, but you can identify if they're having current problems, that you can then go and reach out to them and say, listen, I have capability that you might need, and work together with them to either something you've already developed under a past SBIR and you can become sole source, so that they create the opportunity for you, right? And we can help with that. Next slide. And this is what the DISIP site, which is the Defense SBIR STTR Innovation Portal, looks like, right? And right now there's a current solicitation open, it is not open. It's been in pre-release. The day the SBIR gets reauthorized, I am almost 100% sure it will open. And then guess what? You're going to have a few weeks to submit your proposal. So if you believe you have something, go and look right now to what topics are there and start writing that proposal. There might be slight changes on what the solicitation looks like, but I doubt it for the Department of War. Have that draft proposal written, make any changes, make sure that you really understand that customer, the need, and make sure you have that go to submit. And next slide. And this is what typically they look like. You go and the structure is about the same. And here's a pro tip. I create these for my capabilities, for things I've done in the past, things I can do now, and I go and present them to program managers, and I start crafting my own future opportunities, because this is the language these folks speak. And if you go to the top, sometimes in the technology areas, you've got to have a fit for that technology area, the priorities, again, and you can use AI to start defining and ranking those good fits by putting in these things in there against your technology, and looking and having the AI become your technology assistant to rank and prioritize with a lot of this, and then of course talk it over with your team. But some of these opportunities will also put the acquisition programs either on the phase 3 at the bottom or at the top. And as part of the reauthorization, we're going to see more and more and more from the get-go when there's specific topics is that alignment to programs of records within the Department of War, and I suspect the DOE and NASA are going to become even better at doing them because they're contracting agencies. They're going to become your customer, unlike an NSF and an NIH that are granting and they're not your customer. They want you to tell them who the customer is and how you're going to commercialize and have that commercialization strategy.
And
Next
we'll go
slide.
into more of those deep things as well, but this does emphasize, folks, getting to know your customer, making sure that you're understanding how they buy. You know, one of the most important things is
sure.
to understand how your customer is going to be buying. There's also, for anybody who's interested in DOW, if you have not, Google Steve Blank DOW thing there, he and others have put together a list of all the program executive offices and program acquisition offices, or experts, I think is the term. And it's not their contact information, but it will help you to kind of, you know, which program within the Department of War you are in line. So you should take advantage of that. And
yeah, that I did not know that one. So that's that helps a lot. But I highly encourage that you go through the exercise of learning how to match yourself to these agencies and to find those people. NSF has a two-step process, and I believe they're still going to do it under the reauthorization, where you submit a pitch, and then if they believe that you have a technology that they would like to, you know, historically support, can invite you for a full proposal. And this is where is it innovative? Is it, are you going to do research? They're going to really challenge you on that pitch, right? And so we're happy to review your pitches before you submit, because that's what we do for a living. We challenge everything you say. I try to, and don't get mad at me, but I'm trying to use AI to phrase because sometimes I'm very harsh, but you get invited to your proposal, and then you can select for these high-level topics. I'm very curious with the reauthorization if these topics will be revised. Wouldn't be surprised if they are, but we're here to guide you through it. Okay. Next slide. Here's project pitch. Okay. So here's, yep.
No, go ahead.
Keep going. Yeah, so I kind of talked a little bit about it, but here's where you're going to do. It's like a couple pages worth of effort on this, but you're going to talk about your team, the market opportunity, your innovation and technology, and that's where it's so important that there's a good fit and that you're innovative and you convince us that you're going to be doing high risk, high reward opportunity. Innovation.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna maybe, let me propose this to folks here. What I'd love to do.
Yeah, because we only have 15 minutes.
Yeah, we do. Searching the past awards, some of these things, this live, I'd rather kind of go to some of the Q&A a little bit and maybe stop the recording here in a minute. But before we stop, kind of scrolling through these slowly, we do have some references, emails, sign up to get notified when Department of Defense, Department of War reopens their SBIR applications. If you're on their listserv, you get those those notices. And most of the other agencies as well are very good about this. Their agency websites are here as well. But again, Googling SBIR and the agency name is going to get you there probably faster. I also, for those of you in Montana, affiliated with Montana, we will be starting. We haven't set the start date because I really want to wait for SBIR reauthorization, but we're going to be kicking off probably in April, a first of our SBIR accelerators, Big Sky SBIR accelerators. Those are going to be, we've done proposal labs before. We've done multi-week proposal labs before. We're really revamping, making sure that everything is consistent. We're going to put it on Canvas, which is a learning management system as well, so that participants in this can really get dedicated proposal development assistance as they're considering, as they're preparing a proposal. We are going to focus our first one on the contracting agencies. So DoD, NASA, are going to be the primary focus of this one. And then we're going to be in the fall, we'll be doing one on the granting agencies as well. And it's because they're a little bit different. You're probably going to miss the first round of DoD applications, but we can still we'll still work you through with this. But I still think it's very worthwhile for people to participate in this as well. And I have one of my other consultants who will lead it with me. Sonia will probably be a guest speaker as well. But I invite people to do that. If you're interested in this, reach out to me. I think it's in the slides. And maybe the link is not there. It certainly is on my website. And I'm gonna come back here, but I'm gonna stop sharing and I want to just open this up for the last 14 minutes for just kind of Q&A back and forth from people. And there are a couple of people that had some questions here that I want to make sure I addressed, but give me a second here before I thank you for your patience. Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to stop recording here right now. I think I'm going to stop recording. Stop.